And I believe that when we hold ourselves back, not by any fault of our own, but just because we've been buried by life and we hold fears and we hold these beliefs, that we can't be the truest, best version of ourselves. And I believe that is where true healing comes.
In this episode of Insights at the Edge Live, my guest is Amy B. Scher. Amy is an expert in mind-body healing and helping people release energetic and emotional blocks to become their happiest, healthiest, and most creative selves. For people who are meeting you for the very first time, how I saved my life. This is how I saved my life. How did you save your life? We're back in when you were in your 20s at this point.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And you had a debilitating case of Lyme's disease. What did you discover could save your life?
I discovered after many, many trips and treatments and doctor's visits and specialists that I had to do the piece for myself that nobody could, which is to turn inward, to figure out what was going on inside of me that was lending itself to being this person who kept creating or attracting or being diagnosed with illness after illness after illness. And it was a sort of a harrowing journey in which I got to the very last part when nothing else worked and realized, I don't want to blame myself here, but I am the common denominator in most of the problems in my life, including illnesses. And I really turned inward to see if there were places where I could not blame myself, but look at patterns or ways in which I was living, which were not conducive to or in alignment with health. And that is how it ultimately saved my life after no one else could.
You know, Amy, this is the second podcast recording we're doing together. And in the first one, we talked quite a bit. And I immediately responded with, well, you created, manifested these different things. I have issues with that. And I grilled you pretty hard. And you said something that stuck with me. And it made a big difference for me, actually. So I remember it and I want to thank you for it and bring it up here right at the start, which is you said that what you discovered was that if you had an influence, any level of influence on the condition of your health, then that also meant you had the capacity to be an influential agent of healing in your situation. Yeah. And I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense. There's no blame in that. None. There's no, I take 100% of this or that. It's, oh, I may be influencing this. And if I'm influencing it, I could influence it in a different direction as well.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, because I think it is so important, especially in this kind of space where people are talking about manifesting your illness or you brought it to yourself, and it's not true. We don't manifest our illnesses, and we might be contributing to them in some way. And I think we can have that we can hold both things. So we're not to blame, but if we're part of the solution, then I want to find what within myself I could shift to help move myself in the direction of health.
If you were to summarize, and I realize this is a big question, but at the same time, you've done a lot of writing and a lot of speaking in what it means to really devote ourselves to self-healing. If you were to summarize the principles that underlie your work and your approach to healing yourself when no one else can, what are they? What are the main principles?
I would say the foundation of my healing approach and what I used for myself and how I help others is to release any emotional or energetic blocks that prevent you from being who you really are. I believe that we are in this world to express who we are in the most free way we can, but stuff piles up on us because life, what can we do? And we become a micromanaged version of ourselves. We become perfectionists, become people pleasers. We hold beliefs that don't serve us. We hold trauma. We hold all kinds of stuff in our body. And I believe that that stuff actually has a physical impact on the immune system. And we know this from a scientific place too, that stress is not good for your immune system. It's not good for your nervous system. And I believe that when we hold ourselves back, not by any fault of our own, but just because we've been buried by life and we hold fears and we hold these beliefs, that we can't be the truest, best version of ourselves. And I believe that is where true healing comes. When you look at those things within you that have been suppressed, that you've been holding back, that you've been afraid of, that you've been micromanaging to be the person you think that you need to be or others want you to be, my work is all about freeing yourself from that. And I believe that's where true healing comes from.
I think it's one thing to identify the ways that we're either holding ourselves back or feel held back. But then when you point to something like who you really are, I think, what? Meaning,
yeah,
it sort of points people into this direction where we have a sense of what that means, but it also feels kind of amorphous. And I wonder if you can speak more. What does it actually mean, who we really are?
I think it is our truest essence, the person that we are with all of our hopes and desires and our sort of spiritual side without the things that hold us back. So when we believe things like we're not deserving of health or people don't love us, or when we're holding trauma from the past, we are not able to live in a way to the fullest expression of ourselves as we would be if we were free from those things. And so that's what I mean. Do we misdirect or redirect our behavior and our thinking and our feeling because these things are holding us back? And who would we be without them? We would be the purest, truest version of ourselves. That's how I see it.
What did you discover in your own journey of healing from Lyme's disease about what was holding you back?
So for me, one of the things was that I am a perfectionist to the core. I'm a Virgo in every way I could be. And I was scared. I realized during my journey with Lyme disease that I had lived in fear my whole life. Not in the typical sense. I had no phobias. I could drive across the bridge. I could do all of the things we normally think of, but I was afraid to be myself. I was afraid to be myself. And to me, being myself out in the world felt so scary that I believe part of me felt safer at home, sick, bedridden, like I was for almost 10 years, than that responsibility of being who you are in the world. And so I think that deep fear of being who we are and expressing ourselves that way, speaking up for ourselves, doing things that we think are right for ourselves, I think that holds a lot of us back. And that was definitely, I think at the core of what caused so much distress in my body was I was scared of everything, but I was most scared of not being perfect, of making a mistake, of somebody not liking me. So all of those things, I think, really contributed for me.
What are ways that you're living in a more self-expressive or free way now that wouldn't have been available to you back then?
The thing that stands out most for me is that I live with more levity about life and about myself. Some of this probably came with some age, right? But because when you're in your 20s, everything feels consequential. I mean, I have cousins in their 20s and everybody they date, every job they may or may not take, every move, everything feels so huge. But the way in which I live now feels so free and unencumbered because I trust the path. I trust not only myself, but the path will unfold as it should. And I allow it to because I don't live with the fear that I used to. So if somebody doesn't like me, they'll fall away. If I want to try something and I might fail, I'll probably live anyway. I just don't hold the pressure on myself that I did my entire life. And I think that has been immensely healing for my body.
You help people release energetic blocks and you work with various techniques from energy psychology, and you make the connection to emotional blocks. And right here at the beginning, I want to understand what you see as the connection between blocks in our energetic flow and emotions that we might be holding on to or suppressing. Do you see it as like energetic blocks equals emotional blocks? They're the same thing? Or do you see them related in some way?
Yeah, what I see is that emotional blocks block your energy from flowing. So that's how I see it. That I also believe that emotions are energy. And so what I believe is that when we're storing these emotions in our body and they become stuck, they are preventing us from having the clear, clean, energetic flow through our muscles, glands, and organs that we should. And I believe that that is essential for physical health. And I also believe that when we hold emotional blocks, it blocks the energy of our spirit. It blocks who we are from expressing that out into the world.
Thanks for listening. See the Creative Mind post for this podcast episode with links to resources and other material.